Javonte Williams is not a top 10 running back, according to ESPN. He's actually not even in the top 25. Did ESPN make a mistake? We're digging into their list of the top 10 running backs and the honorable mentions who also made the list, as well as the defensive tackles on today's show. So tune in. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Welcome to the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Broncos Podcast. I'm Henry Chisholm. This is Todd Davis. And we don't have... Oh, I should say Super Bowl 50 champion Todd Davis. Zach always slips it in. Everybody knows who you are. Zach is not here, though. And he won't be here for the next... today or tomorrow or the 5 days next week. I think we're actually doing a Sunday show next week, which we hadn't announced yet. But he won't be here for that either. So we're actually not going to see him basically until training camp starts. Just kind of crazy.
Yeah, man. He's on vacation, having some fun.
Yeah.
Not as much fun as we're having, but
true.
Take some time off, man. We got to get this guy dialed in a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Might have to call him up on vacation, have him do like something like a call in.
Yeah, that'd be good. Well, so he's going to Portugal, I believe.
Why?
Are there any Portugal ties to the Broncos?
No, but we can always talk a little bit about soccer. Soccer's going on right now, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. I bet he could have some insights there. Yeah, for me, so then my girlfriend's also gone until Monday. So with no Zach, no girlfriend, I'm like what do
I do in my life?
I know, like who even am I for the next 5 days?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's the thing though, is like the Rockies play at 11 today. So
you'll watch that on the couch?
No, but they play like right now. So I'll miss the first hour.
Oh yeah.
So I can't just plan my day around that. I'm a little bit lost. Me and RK are going to the UFC fights on Saturday though.
Oh, that'll be dope.
It'll be really dope. Rose Nama Eunice.
Oh yeah.
We go to the same barber actually.
Who?
Me and Rose. The barber?
Oh. Really?
Yeah.
You guys get the same cut?
No, a little different. a little different. Yeah, all those Denver fighters. So that's going to be fun too. I'm going to have to make some money on those.
Shoot, I might have to go to the fight too.
Yeah. Well, actually, my girlfriend got me free tickets, which is...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She has the connections.
She does love you.
Apparently. She also said that if she was here, she would not want to go with me.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
So I was like, well, I guess this works even better because then I don't have to feel bad about like, see you later. I'm going out using your free tickets without you.
So wait, you got 2 free tickets.
Yep.
And you're going.
Yep.
And I don't know if I got an invite. You here? Did you get one?
I did not get an invite.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying, where, you know what I'm saying, this pecking order.
Are you a big UFC guy?
You know what I'm saying? I do like UFC. You know what I'm saying? If I was offered a free ticket, I think I would go.
I will say I did look just out of curiosity, and the Rapids play at the same time at Dick's. So I was like, well, yeah, I was probably busy. You know, you run through the whole list. It's like Todd probably sitting ringside or whatever. He's probably, you know.
Nice
save.
The commentary, he's one of the ring-girls.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun. Today is also going to be fun because ESPN is releasing their top 10s at every position. So we're a few days behind, but I figured, you know, we've got basically this week and then next week and then camp starts.
Yep.
So we can go through a bunch of these over the course of the time that Zach is gone. And if anything pops up, we can do those too. But they're kind of interesting because they actually put a lot of thought into these. I'm trying to pull up the exact number of voters they have, but what ESPN does every year is they reach out to executives and coaches and scouts all across the league. This year it's 80 voters, and they're all in some way working in the NFL, and they have them rank their top 10s. And so you go through, and they usually wind up being pretty good lists.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're going to start with the running backs today. No Broncos on the list. We'll get to that part later on. But I think the number one, at least, is easy with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. Are you going to pull up the list? You here? Oh, okay.
The thing is, it's an ESPN Plus story. And so I was like,
Okay.
Paywalled? Okay, I'll send it this.
Yeah, so Christian McCaffrey
Yep.
is number 1 on the list, and I don't think there's much argument there. I think he's the best running back in the league and has been for a while, so I'm not really going to debate whether Christian McCaffrey is the one or not. I think that's self-explanatory.
Yeah, I agree. From there, though, is where I think it gets, I don't know, like the list is obviously defensible, but like number 2, Breece Hall. Breece Hall, really good running back for sure. But also, when somebody says, like, what do you think of Breece Hall? I wouldn't say number 2 running back in the NFL. I'd be like, yeah, he's up there. But in front of guys like Nick Chubb at number 3, who, you know, is coming off an injury, so I understand the doubt. But if not for that injury, I think he'd be a lot closer to Christian McCaffrey than he is to anybody else in the league. Number 4 is Saquon, just kind of an interesting fit. And number 5 with Jonathan Taylor. Like, there is a pretty good group up there at the top.
Yeah, but for me, Nick Chubb has to be number 2.
I kind of agree.
And I feel like he's the best, one of the best running backs. I think Christian McCaffrey, especially because of what he can do as far as a pass catcher and almost like a wide receiver outside of the backfield. But, like, no doubt about it, I feel like it's very, very close between him and Nick Chubb as pure, you know, rock runner, finding the hole, making people miss it, and getting extra yards on the ground. Nick Chubb is like, he's leaps and bounds above a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I would easily put him second.
And I mean, the tough part again is the injury, because he only played 2 games last year before he got hurt. But when you run back through what he'd done before that, I mean, just the year before, it's over 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
12 touchdowns. Like, those are crazy numbers. And I think that if you were to bet on who's going to lead the league in rushing this year, Nick Chubb might be my pick. Like, just because Christian McCaffrey, there's a lot of catching the ball in the backfield. And with Breece Hall, we should say, I mean, doesn't have a 1,000-yard season yet, but he did have almost 600 receiving yards last year, almost 1,600 from scrimmage. So good player, but Nick Chubb is somebody who has carried the Browns to some of the best, most successful seasons they've had in decades.
Yes. I think he's been a huge part of that team, and even more than any quarterback. I mean, from Deshaun Watson to Joe Flacco to whoever they had to Baker Mayfield, like, nobody was putting up crazy numbers. I think Nick Chubb was always the driving force of that offense, and you leaned on him as a runner, and that's what opened up different parts of your game. Nobody was scared of the passing attack ever.
Never.
It's always been Nick Chubb, and he's always been dominant as a running back. So, I mean, I'm not really, like, when I link, you know what I'm saying, when I think about the top 5 players, top 10 players at each position, I don't even think about injuries. You know what I'm saying? I don't think about, like, how's this injury going to affect them this year and how they're going to how they're going to be this year and how they're going to rank. Like, no, based off what they've done in the league so far, who's the best and who's the top 10? And for me, Nick Chubb is definitely number 2.
I mean, and there are just so many arguments for it too.
Yeah.
Like, he's never had a season under 5 yards per carry, which is crazy because he's played like 6 years in the NFL now.
Yeah.
Breece Hall last year, and not in a great Jets offense. You know, they didn't give him much help, but 994 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. That's not a very good season compared to a Nick Chubb season.
Compared to Nick Chubb, no.
Yeah, and like, again, it's Breece Hall playing in a pretty rough offense last year. Nick Chubb has played for the Browns the entire career. Like, that's a
rough offense.
Exactly. Yeah. It's never been good. So I think it's pretty crazy. And I get that he's coming off an injury, but that one to me was the one big egregious mistake. And honestly, I think that with Saquon Barkley at number 4, there's a case for him to be in front of Breece Hall too. And I'd be willing to bet money that after this season, Saquon is in front of Breece Hall, just because he's going to be winding up with so many better opportunities than he ever had with the Giants. All of a sudden, you put him in that offense. Like, remember what Miles Sanders was in that offense? He was a really good running back that one year that they went to the Super Bowl. And Miles Sanders, very similar to Saquon. Saquon's backup at Penn State.
Yeah.
But Saquon's just like Miles Sanders, but a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, like a little bit shiftier. And you tack all that on there. I don't know why Saquon couldn't go for like 1,300 yards this year.
Without a doubt. He's going to be in a much better situation, a much better offense. They're going to have weapons, you know, at wide receiver. They have a weapon at quarterback. I think overall he's going to have a much better season. The offensive line has one big piece that they're missing now that they have to get figured out. But I've seen plenty of backs go there and have success. Even DeAndre Swift last year, I thought he had a good year. So you put a guy like Saquon Barkley in there. For me, Breece Hall I think they messed up a couple places. So I would probably put Breece Hall above Bijan, but I would also put Josh Jacobs above Bijan. So maybe Breece Hall would be number 7, and then Bijan would probably be number 8.
Yeah.
If we rework the list. Or 6 and 7, maybe.
I guess we haven't read through these. So after Jonathan Taylor at number 5, who is another kind of interesting conversation, I guess, but you've got Bijan Robinson at 6, Josh Jacobs at 7, Jahmyr Gibbs at 8, Derrick Henry at 9, and Travis Etienne at 10. Josh Jacobs is another one of those guys that I think that everybody's kind of devaluing the older running backs on this list, because Josh Jacobs is another one of those guys who's, still only 26, but I think he might be my number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably is McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, then Josh Jacobs. Again, you look through the numbers, down year last year, 800 yards, played in 13 games, but just the year before that, over 1,600 yards rushing.
He led the league in rushing.
Yeah, another 400 receiving. So that's a 2,000-yard season. That was just 2022, and he's only 26. And he's going to a Packers team that should give him much better opportunities.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs should definitely be higher on this list. Like you said, I think he's a force to be reckoned with. And if you're a Broncos fan, sadly, you understand how good Josh Jacobs is, because I don't know what it is about playing the orange and blue, but he seems to show up every year for those games and usually has a monster game. So maybe we feel a little bit differently about him because of that. But nevertheless, I think he has the stats to back it up. And he's done what, a few of these guys never have, which is led the league in rushing and had a 2,000-yard season. Like, that's very hard to do in today's day and age.
Definitely. I always think back to, they do that top 100 voting in the locker room, and there's a lot of discussion because nobody wants to forget anybody. And I can't remember, I think it was last year. It was the year before. Somebody said oh, Josh Jacobs. And then all around the locker room, I was like, oh, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is on there. It's that is a locker room that really respects what Josh Jacobs can do, because he averaged I think it was 110 per game against the Broncos. And maybe never, I don't think he ever lost to the Broncos.
Nope. I don't think so, not in his career.
That's tough. But he's gone now. And Alexander Madison, who we like, but he's not Josh Jacobs. Bijan at number 6 is another one that's kind of weird to me. I think that's, maybe I'm just off on how last season played out. 976 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. It's a good year. But I think that there's some of that first round bias that's maybe playing into this one, especially when you look at the guys behind him with, Josh Jacobs is right on his heels. I'd rather have, for one season, Josh Jacobs. Jahmyr Gibbs right behind that. Different player in some ways, but I think there's a real case to be made for him. After that, it's Derrick Henry, who older back, but still I'd be really tempted for 1 year to take him.
I think the reason they have Bijan as high as they do is just because of the wild plays. I think that he makes a lot of plays that make you go, oh dang, that was crazy. As opposed to Jahmyr Gibbs, I think is a great runner. Oh man, I don't know. I can't say he doesn't make wild plays, because he does too. It's just
speed,
different. It's just different. I think Jahmyr beat you with speed, which is always impressive. But Bijan will make you look dumb. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think being outran doesn't look as bad as getting shook out your socks and, you know what I'm saying, completely missing the tackle. I think it just looks cleaner. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if I would just say that he's better than Jahmyr Gibbs right now. But what he does as far as the ESPN top 10 highlights, I think his highlights might be a little bit better right now.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Let's round up the top 10. Do you think Derrick Henry should be a number 9 back? To me, that's kind of a weird place to put him. I feel like he's either top 5, he's one of the best, or you're saying he's kind of done now, and so he's not really in the top 10. But slipping him at 9 is a weird place to say, like, he's falling and falling and falling, but he's stuck right there.
Yeah, but I think it may be really realistically kind of where he is. Like, he's definitely not at the top of his game anymore.
Definitely.
But, there was a point where Derrick Henry was the best back in the league for at least 3 or 4 years. And I know he's fallen a little bit from that and doesn't pack the same punch. I know he was on a very terrible team, and he carried the team for a long time. And, that's tiring after so many years. But I think you still keep him in the top 10 because if he does get rejuvenated and has a little bit less work to do, every single game, now he doesn't have to have 35 carries just for the team to be in the game. There is an opportunity for him to be fresher, be healthier, and be more effective like he used to be.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Bet365. Made some money on, let's see. Oh, the Rockies yesterday was one of them. We talked about the Caitlin Clark threes on the show. And then England. I bet the England comeback. Yeah, that was them who had the comeback. So it was a pretty good day. The Uruguayans? Uruguayans?
Oh, I don't know if it's, yeah.
The people from Uruguay really screwed me over at the end of the night, but that's, it's fine.
Uruguay.
Yeah, that was also crazy. That was the first time I really watched a soccer game in a long time. Yeah. Yes, the fans trying to beat up the families of the players, so the players go into the stands and fight that. Yeah, that one was wild. And I also forgot, I did lose money on Canada last night too. It's just so hard. Like, I want to pull for America, but then when you see Embiid out there flopping, it's like this. I want to see bad things happen to most of these American basketball players, but we'll see how that goes. Bet365, though, a whole bunch of opportunities today. Like I said, girlfriend gone. I'm going to be making some bets. If you want to sign up and play along with me, you can deposit $10 and choose between a bet and get offer, place a bet $5 or more, get $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer where you place a bet up to $2,000. If that qualifying bet loses, you receive a match refund in bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And shout out to Indeed. I think Indeed is great because they make the hiring process so easy. And if you're looking for people to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed's data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. You can ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with the candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire fast. 93% of employees agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And my wife and I, we own a few businesses, and the hardest part about a good business is staffing. You got a lot of turnover. You got a lot of people who may or may not have lied on their resume. You know what I'm saying? We won't go into that. Okay. Yep. So it's always great to find the right person and find them fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/allcity. Just go to Indeed.com/allcity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Again, that is Indeed.com/allcity.
All right. Before we round out the honorable mention, the receiving votes, and whether Javonte Williams should have been somewhere on this list, Derrick Henry's a weird fit with the Ravens because it used to be a few years ago they were just playing under center, and they were like a big ground and pound, like grind it out. Like even Lamar's just going to be running the ball a lot, a bunch of quarterback power, that sort of stuff. Whereas now they've shifted into more of a spread type of offense, and I think that Derrick Henry's fit in that offense is a little bit strange. So I'm just curious what you think of that.
Yeah, I think Derrick Henry is a under center downhill power back.
Yep.
But Lamar has found more comfort in shotgun. And my immediate thought with that is pistol.
Yeah.
I think that allows you to get Lamar in a shotgun. It keeps Derrick Henry straight downhill like you want. And it allows for a little bit of cohesion between what they both do well. So I think that's how they use him. And then they have another back. I forget his name, but he'll be the third down back. And Derrick Henry will really be able to eat on first or second down. And I think pistol will probably be, easy for both of them to kind of get the hang of.
I'm always surprised that more teams don't run pistol because it does seem like it just blends everything together. It puts everybody in situations where you're comfortable. It helps out the running game. It helps the quarterback. I know like the Broncos did a little bit with Peyton, but I guess you might not have the answer, but why don't more teams just run pistol?
Because I think for some of the things you ask your running back to do, it could get difficult. Like as far as like blocking schemes or certain running schemes. Like, for a downhill runner, I think they're used to having a little bit more vision than pistol allows. Because I got to be in my stance and I got to be right behind the quarterback. So I can't really see what's happening like guard, center, guard. I kind of look at the tackle. He's standing up.
He's not just
he's not under center to where I can see everybody over top of him. So it makes it a little bit harder. And then if it's like play action, just the ability to kind of like step up, get around the quarterback, and then get to where you need to as far as like your blocking responsibilities. It's a little bit tricky if you haven't practiced it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because when you think about the pass protection, usually like you're off to this side and you're kind of playing like with the guard and the tackle over there. Like, so yeah, I guess I see that. Justice Hill's that other running back too.
Okay.
I'm curious to see how that goes. I guess when it comes to late in the game, that might be where you just say, okay, like we've got a lead, we can just throw Derrick Henry in there and we can just pound the rock.
Yeah.
And at this point in his career, maybe you don't need him every play. All right. Let's hit. So they have two more sections. There was the honorable mention section, and then there's the receiving votes section, where at least one of the 80 said, this is a top 10 running back. Are any of these guys in the honorable mention section worthy of actually being in the top 10? Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift.
I think they all have had times where they were either in the top 10 or show potential to be in the top 10. Like, I don't know about everybody, but I think DeAndre Swift is a hell of a running back. I think he has potential to be top 6, top 7 in the league because he's that explosive and shifty. James Cook, of course, used to be 1 or 2 or 3 in the league. Aaron Jones used to be 1 or 2 or 3 in the league. Alvin Kamara was definitely 1, 2 or 3 in the league. I think Isaiah Pacheco is one that it's hard to put him in the top 10 because he is on a high-powered offense and he's not their go-to. So it's hard to put him in the top 10, but, I mean, he might be 12, 11 right now. Like, he's really a talented back, in my opinion.
Yeah. Or if he had been a first-round pick, he'd probably be in the top 10 pick. I agree. Yeah. It's wrong, but I think that's what would have happened.
That's what would have put him over the top.
To me, I think Alvin Kamara is the most interesting one because I look at Travis Etienne at number 10 and say, would you replace Travis Etienne in that offense with Alvin Kamara? And maybe you say, like, at this point, we just want Travis's speed, but I think they do some similar things, and I think that Kamara does those things a little bit better still at this point.
Yeah, if you talk about, like, pure talent and what they can bring to the game, I think Alvin Kamara is a better running back. Now, the thing about Alvin Kamara is he needs all the different types of offense. Like, you can't just sit him in the backfield and run him 30 times. Like, he needs little screens. He needs a little bubble routes. He needs to, step out of the backfield. So if you don't maximize his potential, he will be 13 on the list. Yep. But if you allow him to do everything and he can do it at a high level, then it's very, very easy for him to crack the top 10.
All right. And then this final section, these guys all received at least one vote. There wound up being 25 total running backs. And this is the final.
I am talking about Dalvin Cook, not James Cook. My bad, guys.
Kyren Williams, James Conner, Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert, Najee Harris, David Montgomery, Ramondre Stevenson, Austin Eckler.
Kyren Williams, great running back. James Conner, a little older. Tony, I think, is a good running back. He did have a great offensive line. He did have a good system, but ultimately I thought he was good. He was, at the time, Zeke was really making, a name for himself. I think he came out and proved that he was better than Zeke even. Raheem, you can't sleep on Raheem Mostert. I think he's a good running back and a great part of that tandem over in Miami. Najee, he's a good running back, but I think his team has hindered him a little bit. I think he's had to work a little bit more than he needed to as a young back, and so he hasn't been as fresh.
Yeah,
I think he's been a little bit worn down.
I think with him, when I picture him in my mind, I just see him like running straight ahead and picking up like 3 yards and being like, this is just like another ugly run from Najee. But that probably has more to do with the offense than him himself.
Yeah.
You know, like if there were running lanes in the middle, he'd probably take advantage. But they've kind of just asked him to be like, hey, we're shooting for 3-4 yards here. Put your head down, go pick them up because we can't get much more anywhere else.
Yeah, but remember what he did out of college? I think he broke tackles.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's what he did.
Oh, yeah.
And I think everybody's thinking like similar to Derrick Henry, getting a downhill offense. If you get one, if it's 1-on-1, that's not a 3-yard carry. That's 6, and you got to get tackled by the safety that's coming down. Like that's what they're expecting him to do, and I just don't think that he's done that yet.
I agree.
David Montgomery, I think, is a great back. Ramondre, solid back. Austin
He's
Eckler,
awesome.
We'll have to see what he does in Washington. I think that he was hindered by the system here too, and just struggling the last year because of Herbert's injuries. And he's another running back that needs just as many catches as he has touches.
Definitely. I think Eckler could easily, maybe not get into the top 10 again, but at least move up to like the honorable mention, like 12, 13, 14, just because of those limitations. With Ramondre Stevenson, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he's pushing that top 10 just because he's so big and his feet are so quick. And it doesn't really matter because he's in that terrible Patriots offense. and that probably won't change this year. Like, he's not going to all of a sudden look great. But there's a reason I think that they gave him that extension that they did. And I think of this group, he might be, like, maybe not the best, but at least, like, my guy. Also, going back to Kyren Williams, that was another one where there was a big debate in the locker room. It was Justin Sternad. And I can't remember who he was arguing with about whether Kyren Williams or Bijan is better.
I think Kyren Williams is not a receive votes guy. He's more of an honorable mention guy.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if he's top 10, but I think he's a hell of a running back. Because that's the thing, like, it's tough making these lists because you got to think about how good all these guys really are. Like, some of these guys are, like, super talented. So you got guys that are, like, can have a good year and have a top 5 rushing year, but does that make them a top 5 running back? Or did a couple of the guys that usually are phenomenal had a year that wasn't so favorable? And I think for this, consistency is a lot of what I think about with these guys. Maybe Bijan has the least amount of work that's been put in and he's on the top 10, but all these other guys have been pretty consistent with their play for a little while. Yeah.
I think pretty much anybody on this list, if they go get 1,000 yards, you're not going to be surprised. Like, there's a couple, like Austin Eckler, for example, like that's just not what he does. But, you know, you throw in the receiving and maybe he finds another way. But there is a pretty clear difference between most of this list and like the handful at the top, where if they go get 1,400, 1,500 yards, then you're not surprised. You know, like McCaffrey finds a way 1,500 yards. Yep, that's what you expect. Nick Chubb, yep, he's proven he can do that. Saquon in this offense, yep. Jonathan Taylor, Bijan, Josh Jacobs. But then there is a pretty clear line afterwards, somewhere around like 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there, where they do just kind of become more interchangeable. Like, they're all good backs, but they aren't necessarily just going to put an entire team on their back and carry them to a playoff appearance like that top 5 or 6 does.
I don't know.
No?
Well, yeah, I guess I can see what you're saying. Like now, yes, because Derrick Henry, he's done that.
Yep, he has.
Josh Jacobs can do that.
Josh Jacobs can, yep.
Jahmyr Gibbs is just young, like, but he had a phenomenal year. Like,
he's one of those that's on the borderline. And because you have to factor in the receiver. Like, I doubt he gets like 1,500 rushing.
Yes.
I'd be shocked if that happens.
Yes.
But if he gets 1,100 rushing and winds up with 700 receiving, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think they're going to ask him to get 1,500 rushing yards.
You just
They don't
can't.
need that from him.
No.
They have too many other weapons, and there's only one football. They got Laporta, they got Amon-Ra, they got talent. You know what I'm saying? Everybody now with guys getting paid and getting more money, like everybody needs more touches.
Yep. Okay, we still haven't hit whether Javonte should be on this list, but real quick before we do, got to talk about a couple more of our friends. We've got Red Hawk Roofing. I don't have a roof,
You
but
have a roof.
well, I guess the people like 3 floors above me have a roof.
Well, you have a roof too, just like your roof is someone else's floor.
I feel like that's more of a ceiling than a roof.
Ceiling.
Yeah.
But I guess everybody has the same roof. Yeah, okay.
We're all under one roof.
Yeah.
So I guess if our roof went bad, it would probably take like a week or so for everything to kind of seep through and it to be
But then
my problem.
That would suck.
That would really, really, really suck. And I know for a lot of you have your own roof, and you should really take care of that. Red Hawk Roofing, they do great work. There are actually some people who still haven't fixed up their roof since the big hailstorm, which was what? That's like a month ago now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, about a month ago now. If you haven't fixed your roof up, now is the time to reach out to Red Hawk Roofing, because they will give you a free consultation, and then from there you kind of figure out what you want to do with them. They have the quality of materials, decades of experience, they have a quick response time. They're huge DNVR supporters. We always see them at the golf tournaments in particular. They'll be down here for like some Nuggets games or Avs games, probably some Broncos games too, I'd imagine. But they're always having a good time at the golf tournament. So we really, really like them, and I'd imagine they'd be pretty awesome to work with too, having met at least like 5 or 10 of all those guys. If you do decide to go get your roof or property inspected, it's free. There's no obligation. They'll give you an in-depth photo report for all the inspections. You can't always see how bad the damage to your roof is, especially from the ground, because that's, unless you're really tall, you can't really see it. So they'll just go up there and they'll check it out. And if you do decide you need to upgrade, they'll give you a free upgrade to a hail impact resistant shingle. So supporting your local teams also means supporting local businesses like Red Hawk Roofing. If you're looking for a new roof over your home or business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921 and tell them DNVR sent you.
And shout out to our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is great for me because personally, I have sensitive eyes. I don't know if anybody else does, but if the sun is out and I'm outside, I can't just be walking around, what is it called? Barefaced? Naked faced?
Wow, yeah.
I need some sunglasses on because otherwise I'm squinting the whole time and it looks crazy. But Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5-star by over 300,000 people. Used to be 250,000, now it's 300,000.
Wow,
Soon
that's
it's going to be 1 million. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor activities. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair just to fit your style. And right now, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. You can head to shadyrays.com and use code DNVR for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. You should try it for yourself. Again, they're rated 5 stars for over 300,000 people. There can't be 300,000 liars. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You can have one person come out and lie on you, but
it's true.
You know what I'm saying, like Diddy has about 40 people, there's no way there's 40 people lying. You know what I'm saying? So if 300,000 could say 5-star, I know it's true. So shout out to Shady Rays.
Awesome. All right, let's wrap up the running backs. We'll hit the defensive tackles after. But I don't think there's much of a case for Javonte to be in front of any of the guys in the honorable mention tier. Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift. Like, Javonte is behind them. And maybe he bounces back and we reevaluate after the season. I think that maybe you could make the case for him to be in front of some of the guys who received votes. Kyron Williams, James Conner, Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert, Najee Harris, David Montgomery, Ramondre Stevenson, Austin Eckler.
Okay, you make the case. Who are you putting him in front of?
I'll go Austin Eckler. I'll make the case. I'm not sure if I believe the case, but I'll make the case. Okay, Austin Eckler. Damn, he's only 29 still. That makes it a little bit tougher. 628 rushing yards last year, 436 receiving. So he was 1050 or so, 1060 last year. I think healthy Javonte Williams gets 1050 from scrimmage pretty easily. I think that I think that if he just is what he was last year, he gets to that number. Whereas I think that there's a chance that he gets better, in which case 1050 is pretty easy. I also think that there's a case for Austin Eckler aging a little bit more and him getting worse. So when you look at, there's the argument. Austin Eckler, 1050 from scrimmage last year. Javonte, just over 1,000 from scrimmage. If anything, Javonte's trending up. If anything, Eckler's trending down.
Okay. I would ask, I guess playing devil's advocate, I would say, there was a down year for Austin Eckler last year. Kind of a bounce back year for Javonte. Just not a full bounce back, but he's trying to get back to himself. Even in Javonte's best year, was it better than Austin Eckler's?
Javonte's best year rookie season, 900 rushing, 316 receiving, so 1219 total.
Yep.
Austin Eckler. I have too many tabs open. Now I got to refresh it.
Oh, dang.
There it is. I've got to add these myself. So, no 1,000-yard seasons for Austin Eckler.
Yep.
He did run for 900 twice. And then last year he ran for over 600. That was the only other time he's over 600.
Okay.
Receiving-wise, he has 722, 647. 2019, he had almost 1,000 receiving yards, 993. So I would say
that was the same year Javonte had 900 yards rushing, huh?
Year before. But yeah, so I mean, if you're just going by total yards, I would guess Eckler's played 7 years. Javonte's best season ranks 5th out of... It's
7.
better than 3 of them, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
5 in front, 3 behind.
I think Austin Eckler's a good running back. But he's one that... It's tough because you call him running backs, but what he does is more like a slot receiver than a true running back. Now, as far as running the ball, run after catch, I think Javonte is a better running back. But just off of stats, it's hard to put him above him right now. But one guy that I do see on the list that I feel like is kind of aging out is Connor.
Definitely.
Like, I don't feel like he's a top running back. He was at one point, but he's definitely not somebody that's feared like he used to be or as dominant as he used to be. And I think that at this point right now, not even in the future, right now, I feel like Javonte Williams is better than him. Okay.
I could get behind that. I'm pulling up the numbers, but it feels like he had one great season and a few other good seasons. So last year was the first time he ever ran for 1,000 yards. It was at 1040. Terms of yards from scrimmage, he's hit 1,200 twice. Once was last year, 1,205. The other was 2018, 1,470.
Yep.
So that might be the better case to make. Now, he's also playing for the Cardinals the past 3 years, so that's not helping.
I don't even want to make the comparison.
I'll make the comparison. Cardinals might have had a better offense than the Broncos. Yes.
The both we've been in has been similar.
That's true. That is true. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah, it's tough because James Conner's coming off maybe his best season in terms of efficiency.
But can he do it again at the age that he's
exactly?
Yeah, because after his great season, he kind of like had a couple down years, and then he left his team and then went to the Cardinals, and then he needed time to kind of warm up there. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking long run, you want Javonte for 1 year. There's a case to be made. How big of a problem is it to not have a top 25 running back? Well, and I mean, we don't even know who the next 5 up are. Or the next 5 after that. Like, I would imagine that you're getting Javonte in the top 30 there somewhere.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily even know that he's top 30, top 35. It certainly wouldn't be lower than that, you'd think. Is that a major issue?
I would say yes. Not having a top 30 running back in the league is a pretty bad problem to have. After the issues we've had at quarterback, and what people say about our wide receivers, like, we need a running back that is formidable. Now, I think Javonte is that guy. I know he can be that guy, and I don't think he's not a top 30. That's crazy. But just speaking, if you don't have a top 30 running back, I think you're in a lot of trouble. You better have a hell of a quarterback with a hell of an arm that can make up for your lack of being able to run the football.
Yeah, and I think that you see teams get by without one of those guys. Like, obviously, you have the Chiefs with Isaiah Pacheco.
But he's top 30.
He's top 30 for sure,
Yeah.
but he isn't one of the like elite guys. And maybe even the reason we say that is because he is in that great offense. There's this whole group of teams, though. I think of the Browns with Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Where it's like, are the Browns a playoff team with Nick Chubb? Yes. Are they without him? I don't think so. You look at the Colts with Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
Are they a playoff team? They might be because of Jonathan Taylor. Without him, they just don't have the guys. I think that you can kind of go through this list, and when you're in a situation like the Broncos are, where you just don't know where the offense is coming from, if you just have one of those guys, top 5, top 10 type guy, that can totally change the type of team you are. That doesn't necessarily mean you're a Super Bowl contender, but that does mean that you're every single week saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out there and we're going to feed this guy. And if it doesn't work, then we'll adjust. And if it does work, then we're going to win. Like, it just gives you something to lean on. I understand why you would want to invest in a running back at this point. There are a bunch of reasons for it. First round picks on running backs, they don't always work out. You sometimes, you might find a good running back for 3-4 years, but then by the time the Broncos feel like they're all built out, is this guy just cooked anyway? Mm-hmm. But I do think that if they just had one of those guys, say if they had found a way to go get Saquon, it changes the entire outlook for the season. Maybe not to Super Bowl contender, but at least to like, hey, we've got a strength that we might be able to ride to the playoffs if things go well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's tough because you thought you found that in Javonte.
Yeah.
After his rookie season, you're like, oh, they found a guy.
Yep.
Led the league in broken tackles. It's all about him getting back to himself.
Yep.
And that's the thing about Javonte. If he can get back healthy, I think he can be in the top 10 just because of what he does as far as breaking tackles. Now, he's not the same like receiving back as some of these guys, but just his ability to run the football, he's a hell of a running back.
Definitely. We've got 18 minutes to get through these defensive tackles. I think we can do it. Number 1, Chris Jones. He had been basically number 2 for the past half decade or so.
Yeah.
Finally gets to go to number 1. Quinnen Williams, number 2. Dexter Lawrence, number 3. Jeffrey Simmons, number 4. Justin Matabuki at number 5. And I think number 5 is probably where this opens up a little bit. I think those top 3 probably are pretty solidified as a top 3, and maybe even solidified in that order. Mm-hmm. Top 4 with Jeffrey Simmons in there too. Matabuki has the one really good year with the Ravens. A bunch of sacks on the inside, don't want to discredit it. But you have other guys like Christian Wilkins behind him who've had a couple more years of success. DeForest Buckner's behind him at number 8. That's still only 30. Like, there's still plenty of juice in the tank, and he's been one of the best defensive tackles for a half decade. Kenny Clark, only 28, going to be a free agent this offseason. I think would be a pretty cool pickup for the Broncos. He's been a really good player for a handful of years. Javon Hargrave up there. Curious what you think specifically about like this kind of second half of the list and where it all shakes out.
I think the big boys up front are a unique group to try and like dissect because it's so many different factors to being a great interior D lineman. Like, if you can get sacks, you're in a different class because that's hard to do from the interior. But if you're a good run stopper, then you're kind of expected to be because you're in the interior.
Yeah.
Now, if you're somebody that requires a double team every play because you're that good, now that's another tier. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many different tiers within this, D tackle bracket, because for an outside linebacker, if you can get 10 plus sacks, you're going to be top 10. That's
Yep.
it. Like, it doesn't even matter. Run blocking, you could be whatever. It's all about the sacks. But with these different guys, it's hard to rank them because they all do different things well. Without a doubt, I feel like you said, the top 4 or 5 is kind of locked in. Christian Wilkins at 6, I think he's a hell of a player. He's been successful. I hate that he's that high on the list because you pair him with Max Crosby and the Raiders.
Really
we got to play him twice a game. I don't love that. Love that. But it also, helps me think like, okay, let's pay Quinn now and then stop playing. I definitely agree. There is some people that could be moved. I think DeForest Buckner has been good for a while, and he could easily be 5. Christian Wilkins could be 4. But yeah, they got some good guys here. I like Vita Vea too. I think Vita Vea is just a little bit older.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because he was the young guy just like a few years ago. Like that Super Bowl season when Tom Brady won with the Bucks, everybody was talking about Vita Vea. It's like how can a guy be that big and move that way? And he was so impactful over and over and over. And I didn't watch a lot of Bucks games, so maybe he really isn't that same player anymore. But for him to, like, he seemed like he was in that elite group, where maybe it is Chris Jones a tier of his own, and then there's that group of 4 or 5 after. Seeing him not even in the top 10 makes me think that I just need to go back and watch because something must have changed.
Yeah, because he's one of those solid body guys that can really move and like light on his feet, like twinkle toes almost. Hell of a player. Cameron Hayward, I think, could possibly be in the top 10.
Yeah.
I think he's been good for a long time. I mean, they have TJ Watt there too, so that helps. But I think, he holds it down in the middle. I'd love to have him on the squad. Great teammate.
It's Derrick Brown at number 7. Like, it's probably where he belongs. Like, he's former number 7 overall pick, only 26, has been a really, really good football player, but in his 4 years in the NFL only has 8 sacks. Because that's just not that's not his game. Like you said, like he's the big guy who just plugs things up in the middle, stuffs and runs.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see him like right in front of DeForest Buckner, who I think at some point had a 10-sack season. It is really tough to figure out what you're looking for here. Like Justin Matabuki at number 5, who I think was like a 3rd-round pick, and you knew he had like the pass rushing upside, but was seen as a bit of a project. The project panned out. Is he a consistent 10-sack per year player, or did he get kind of lucky in a contract here? It is weird to try to go through and rank all these guys.
Yeah.
Jonathan Allen, though, in the honorable mention. We'll read the. I haven't read the second half of the top 10, I guess. Christian Wilkins.
Wait, sorry, before you go on. There's D tackles. Is there D ends and outside linebackers too?
I believe so, but I can double check. So you've got number 6, Christian Wilkins, number 7, Derrick Brown, number 8, DeForest Buckner, number 9, Kenny Clark, number 10, Javon Hargrave. Honorable mention, Vita Vea, Jonathan Allen, Jalen Carter, Deron Payne, Cameron Hayward, Christian Barmore. This does feel like a much deeper group than the running backs, for example. And I think, again, there's only that handful at the top that are really special. But if you add, a Deron Payne, Jalen Carter, Cameron Hayward to a team, that changes everything about the defense.
Yeah, impact is immediate. And there's 2 on every team, so maybe... No, it's not easier to find guys that are that big, that can move that fast. No, but there's a couple of guys on here. A lot of guys on here that nobody would say we don't want them on their team or wouldn't be happy to have them on the squad. Like, there's some ball. Even Draymond Jones got a little vote. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Draymond Jones.
The received votes section: Eric Armstead, Zach Sealer, Ed Oliver, Leonard Williams, Grady Jarrett, who I would have thought would have retired by now, and then Draymond Jones. I think it is interesting though to see. Maybe there is a case to be made for Zach Allen to be like honestly right there with Draymond Jones. Like they are very similar players in a lot of ways. They got paid very similarly in free agency. I think statistically also very similar. I think that Draymond versus Zach Allen kind of comparison is going to last a while. And maybe that's just in my head because, that was the direct replacement for Draymond was Zach Allen. You said, we're going to pay about the same amount of money for this guy instead of the guy who's already on the team. And to see Draymond on the list and not Zach Allen, it's not what you want at this point.
Yes. And the reason I think Draymond made the list is because he led the Broncos in sacks from the interior.
It's crazy.
I don't think Zach Allen has done that yet. I know he had got a lot of sacks at Arizona. I don't know if he ever led the team, but he's continuing to find success. So Draymond, man, I think he's a little bit more physical than Zach too. So I think they're very similar players, but I think physicality, I probably give that a little bit more to Draymond.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hey, what happened to Leonard Williams? Wasn't he supposed to be top 3? Like, I know he was a couple years ago.
Yeah. I'll pull up the stats. So still only 30. Yeah, because I remember before which game was it where they played him? 5.5 sacks last year though. About I think Draymond had 4.5. 2020 was when he had 11.5, and then it's kind of hovered around there, 6.5, 2.5. Before that half. So yeah, he was. It's interesting because he was Pro Bowl year 2. I almost remember him as kind of a late bloomer. Maybe I was wrong about that, but I remembered him coming out a little bit slow and then building up to that big year. That is another interesting one. But I'm curious because he's also valuable in the running game too. Is the thing probably more valuable? Yeah, like Draymond, I'd probably take Leonard Williams against the run. You know,
solid.
Yeah,
solid.
If a Bronco makes this list next year, the defensive line list, who do you think it is?
DJ.
DJ?
Yeah.
Interesting. Why?
Has to be. He came over as that guy, like not a top 10 guy, but definitely an honorable mention guy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He just hasn't outperformed his contract yet.
Yep.
For different reasons, injuries, and just not really having continuity in the scheme either. But he was definitely in the list of like the Deron Payne, Cameron Haim type guy once he got like on his way here. So he just has to get back to that level of performance. But and I feel like he's the only guy that was that highly touted before they got here. Even the guys we picked up this year, we've got some Roach, we got some great guys that are coming in. Nobody was as highly touted as DJ Jones coming into the locker room. And so he just has to get back to that level of performance.
Well, I think a lot of that was obviously a great player, but he was a part of that group of 49ers defensive linemen that they let walk just because they didn't really have a choice. You know, DeForest Buckner, who we talked about, was kind of the biggest guy they had to let walk, but they were just spending that first-round pick every single year on one of them. And so when one of those guys leaks out, you say, like, this is a great opportunity. These guys don't always hit the market. With DJ, I think that, from what we've heard, it sounds like it's more of a downhill one-gapping type system. It seemed like there was quite a bit of that last year anyway. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But I love that for a guy like DJ because like he's a big dude, but he's 304 pounds is what he's listed. It's not like, you know, Derrick Brown, for example, we talked about, 320 pounds. Like there is a difference there. Like if you're asking somebody to just clog up the middle, take that double team, you want the 320 pounder, not the 300 pounder. And that's where DJ Jones, as a penetrating nose tackle, penetrating defensive tackle, that's what he's really, really good at. And if you put him in those situations more, I think that he could have his best season yet as a Bronco.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I think he's going to have much better feel for the offense. I mean, defense this year. I think last year, was a better fit for him than the year before. I think Van Joseph's scheme, I think he had a better year last year than the year before. And I saw him make a lot more plays within the scheme. So I just hope that continues in year 2. And like we always talk about, the second year in the defense is always better than just your first year. So I'm looking for him to have a good year. And with the rotation that they are going to have, he's going to be fresher. He's going to feel better. He's going to have more, you know what I'm saying, tread on his tires. Like, I think he'll have a great season. Yep.
And I think there are 3 guys who could really, and definitely push to be in that receiving votes category with him, Zach Allen, and John Franklin Myers, who, especially on a list like this, the fact that you might see a little bit of John Franklin Myers on the edge where the stats are a little bit easier to come by, that could help his case at the end of the year because he'll still be listed as a defensive tackle, but you're going to get the opportunities to get a couple more sacks or play a little bit more in the backfield in the running game even. So if all goes well, a couple of those guys could be on this list.
Yeah. Like I said, we've only done running backs and D tackles, but the additions that we have now in the room and then just the full rotation of 2 groups of starters that we have now, like, without a doubt, I feel like somebody can make this list. Now, it may be tougher, you know, splitting reps because you have so many good guys. You know, usually on most of these teams, like a Chris Jones or Christian Wilkinson is kind of like a 70-30.
Yep.
This year might be more like 65-35 or 50-50, depending on how guys play. So that'd be good.
It will be good. We've got edge rushers and safeties tomorrow. Unless the Broncos want to give us some news to talk about, which I wouldn't be against. Before we get out of here, I just want to run through all these. Tell me whether you think the Broncos are going to have somebody in the top 10 in like the list of top 25 or so somewhere, or just nobody on the list. So edge rusher.
At positions.
Yep.
No.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Safety.
No.
No. Tight end.
No. No.
Interior offensive lineman.
Yes.
Top 10.
Yes.
Thanks,
for sure.
Quinn. Offensive tackle.
Yes.
On the list somewhere, I think.
Yes,
Probably
somewhere.
not top 10, but on the list somewhere. Quarterback.
No.
Yeah.
Not yet. I'll say not yet.
yet.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that sounds better. Off-ball linebacker.
On the list somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. That one's going to be close.
Yeah.
Because, again, when you're voting for a top 10, people hate tackling linebackers. It might be different when you're polling front office and coaches, though, versus polling, like, media or general. Because right now there's that bias where it's like, sure, you got all those tackles, but anybody can make a tackle 5 yards downfield. Not something we believe on this podcast, but a thing that people say. Wide receivers?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no. And cornerback?
Yes. Without a doubt.
I agree, yes. So we're looking at corner.
Top 3.
Top 3, yep. Cornerback, interior offensive line, and tackle, somewhere on the list.
Yep.
Oh, and maybe linebacker too. So there's a handful.
Yeah, we got some love in there.
There will be some teams that have a lot more players than that, though. That's a kind of a dark conversation. Yep, so we're going to be back without Zach again tomorrow. Appreciate all of you for listening. We don't have any super chats, right, Yaya? No, we don't. Okay. Cool. We will see you guys tomorrow.
All city like the mayor.